It's me, who else? Cassandra from Mink Law, and I am not a lawyer, I just work here. Today we've got a juicy one for defamation news. Will any documentary coming out of Netflix escape a defamation lawsuit? This time is Tyra Banks firing back at Reality Check, Inside America's Next Top Model. She's suing Netflix, 89 Block Holdings, Everwonder Studio, Netflix Music, and co-directors Moore Loshi and Daniel Sivan for false light, defamation by implication, breach of contract, and false endorsement. She says the 3.5 hours that she spent in the interview taking accountability ended up on the cutting room floor. Look, any interview you ever do is going to be subject to a lot of editing. The amount of editing that I had to do for this video is more than I'd like to admit. Hi, baby. Oh, good. But most of the time, 80-90% will just get cut and rearranged in unexpected ways, and that's just the way that the cookie crumbles in the television industry. As a reality TV queen, she should know this better than anybody. Well, I think the contestants on ANTM probably know better than anybody. We were rooting for you! We were all rooting for you! How dare you! But her lawyers argued that it went too far, that it was manipulated to support a false and defamatory narrative unrelated to what she actually expressed. The biggest issue that she takes with it is how the documentary treats her reaction to finding out about Shandy's assault on the show. Her lawyers stated the defendants edited the Netflix series to make it appear that Ms. Banks knew that she was being asked about a sexual assault and was intentionally trying to evade the topic. The implication is that the interview spun it to seem like Tyra was complicit in allowing the assault to happen on her show because it was good for ratings and she didn't even remember when she was asked about it. Well, did she not remember, or did she exploit it for ratings? From Deadline, Ms. Sullivan is shown describing the event as an assault, something Ms. Banks had never heard before and was not told during her interview. Having withheld that information, Ms. Loshi asked Ms. Banks,
"You remember the story with Shandy?"
The episode shows Ms. Banks glance upward and say, and then the screen cuts to black. The implication is devastating and deliberate that Tyra Banks cannot even remember the story of the woman who was assaulted on her show. By carving the knot out of the middle of the sequence and cutting off Ms. Banks' comment at the end, the producers ensured that the viewers would only see the lie and not the truth. The weird part is, though, I found the clip for her saying that she remembered.
"You remember the story with Shandy?"
I do remember her story.
Did they add this back in since the lawsuit started? Tyra was denied access to the final edit of the interview before it was released. Not necessarily uncommon practice, but her team asserts that they would have wanted to fact check it and would have had appreciated an opportunity to respond to any accusations from the other people interviewed for the project. As it turns out, it seems like the other judges from the show were given this privilege, but she was not. If she had known that she was being deliberately excluded, she would have spotted it as a setup and opted out. So a part of qualifying defamation is that you have to prove that you suffered damages, right? Tyra's ice cream shop, Smize and Dream in Sydney, Australia, started getting review bombed right after the series was released. Quick note from our legal team, don't do that. Review bombing is when you leave a bunch of 1-star reviews for a business because you don't like the owner or some aspect of the business, but you likely have never been a customer there. Leaving a review for a place that you weren't a customer is against FTC rules and the platform terms of service. That is that you could be in legal trouble for doing that. Regardless of whether or not I know what hot ice cream is.
Hot ice cream.
If Tyra called us, we would have supported her wishes to send cease and desist or retraction demands for those false reviews on her business. And she would be well within her rights to do so. Even if you're anonymous, we could subpoena the platforms to uncover the identity of defamers that are reviewing under false pretenses, should we be hired to do so, which we often are. But anyway, Tyra also filed an injunction prohibiting the use of her image and likeness in the soundtrack for Reality Check. But why can't she just file the injunction on the docuseries itself? Well, she signed a waiver. That waiver, ostensibly given to all of the participants, had a clause that relinquishes your right to sue them. There's a possible loophole, though, that Tyra is trying to fit through: willful misconduct or gross negligence. This is what separates a villain edit from potential legal claims for defamation or false light. The waiver had language saying that they wouldn't edit her in a way that constitutes actionable defamation or replace her words in a way that changes the meaning of what she said. But Tyra says that's exactly what they did anyway, so that nullifies their agreement, which is allowing her to pursue the lawsuit. The problem of being a public figure is she's going to have to prove actual malice. So if she can come up with enough receipts to show that the interview was intentionally, maliciously edited to be false and then to damage her reputation, then she may have a viable case. She would need to produce like an email or something from Netflix saying, cut it up so it looks like she's saying this instead, even though we know it's not true. The lawsuit would require some correspondence to be provided in the discovery process, so her lawyers could dig through and try to find such a thing, but to that I say, good luck, girl. Interestingly, she's been living and working in Australia lately, so their defamation laws could be more favorable to her situation than in the US. But she and her legal team chose the US because that's where the defendants are based, so it could be a better chance to recover damages if she wins. Higher risk and high reward. But if you've been working in defamation law as long as we have, well, I'm not a lawyer, so as long as, say, Aaron, Mike, Dan, Dorian, Sarah, or Mackenzie, you know that money isn't really the primary factor in a defamation suit. It's really about setting the story straight for the public eye. If that's the reward, though, the risk is the Streisand effect. That is, she just calls more unwanted attention to it than she would have if she left it alone. She could fumble the lawsuit and make things worse, turning the public against her even more than it already is. But when you're already facing this much public scrutiny and the damages are piling up, she's clearly weighed her options. If Netflix wouldn't let her tell her story the way she wanted, then this lawsuit will. In the AP article, it concludes with a quote from the suit. Every other conversation about ANTM's legacy, including the candid reflection Ms. Banks came prepared to have, is now drowned out by an accusation she was never given the chance to answer, her lawyers wrote. This lawsuit is that answer. The docuseries shows Ken Mott commenting about how he's producing ANTM. They recorded everything, the good, the bad, and everything in between. I watched the doc. I loved it. And I think it showed plenty of moments where Tyra got to defend her work on ANTM and what she contributed to the modeling industry and pop culture as a whole. You could do a lot of good and a lot of bad, and ANTM certainly was all of that and everything in between, no matter how it's edited. Yeah. As season 17's Angelia Preston puts it, it's kind of like a taste of your own medicine, in a way. She had fought a lawsuit against ANTM in 2014, but it was dropped. Gianna Turner from season 24 is quoted, "It's also extremely ironic of her to be suing them for defamation when we have been defamed, our lives were affected, our careers were affected. Ultimately, it was defamation." What do you think Tyra's odds are for winning this suit? Do you think any differently about her since hearing her response? And if this goes to trial, the two of them are standing before the judge. Whose photo do you think the judge will be holding in their hand?